What's going on, everybody? It's your main man, Big Ive, the talk of the town, Mr. DETV, Mr. Positivity, and this is a special edition of Good Morning Wilmington. Look, if you grew up in Wilmington, you know about pretty much great things that's happening. But right now, we are here because the team felt that you needed to hear this story right here. I get the opportunity to sit with the Delaware Theater Company executive director that is about to take a vacation. I don't want to use the word retire.
Hiatus.
A hiatus, right. Bud Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for coming. It's my pleasure, our pleasure.
I appreciate it. So, okay, let's hop right into it.
Okay.
You are the man about theater around town. What was the first piece of a play or something that you saw in theater that just said, I'm in love?
Well, my parents took me, when I was in grade school, my parents took me into Philadelphia to see Mary Martin in The Sound of Music. Mm-hmm. And I was sort of hoping she was our aunt, but she wasn't.
Okay.
And, you know, in those days we wore jacket and tie to go to the theater. Mm-hmm. And I was just so intrigued with seeing live people on stage and feeling like, oh my gosh, it's not like watching TV or a movie or something. It was something really special. And then when I was in high school, I was on the tennis team, and the tennis coach also directed the school plays. Mm-hmm. So he was very anxious to get athletes into the plays.
Okay, why?
He just wanted to make sure that people thought that it was open to everybody and not just a group of people that just wanted to be in the theater.
Right.
So he was great about getting people from other sports teams, and he made all of us in the tennis team try out for the show. Mm-hmm. And it was Oliver, and I got cast in the chorus, and I just had such a great time doing it and got so close to all the people that were doing it. Then I decided the following year I wanted to be the lead.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I tried out for half a sixpence, and I got the lead in that show, and that's really what was my driving force. That I told my parents I really wanted to go to college and major in theater, and they said, as long as you're going to go to college,
right.
Okay.
Right.
And that was really the start of it. And then when I went to college, I was in a lot of shows, and I actually started directing in college, which made me decide that I really wanted to be a director more than an actor. I got out of college and I went to grad school, mm-hmm. and while I was going to grad school, I taught high school, mm-hmm. Taught theater in high school. I actually taught here in Wilmington for 4 years at Del Castle Technical School.
Okay.
They had a quote shop in theater and music, mm-hmm. and art, just like they did in auto mechanics and carpentry and so forth. So I taught theater there for 4 years and wanted to direct professionally, and a teaching schedule sort of kept me from doing that. Right. So I quit teaching. I worked another 4 or 5 years, mostly in New York, because we didn't have as many regional theater opportunities then. Then my kids started getting a little skinny.
Okay.
I was working all the time, making about half as much as I did teaching.
Right, right. And that's what that means, getting a little skinny, like, hey, the money wasn't there.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I decided that in order for me to do what I really wanted to do, I had to be able to find a way to, finance it.
Right.
So I played an investment banker on TV one time, and I got offered a job. No, actually, I thought, I really wanted to be an investment banker so that I could learn more about finance and how to raise money. And a guy in Philadelphia who used to invest in Broadway plays, I guess he felt sorry for me, and he gave me a job. And I ended up becoming an investment banker. A few of us left that firm and started our own.
And Entrepreneur of the Year, too.
That was in 2006.
Right.
We started a firm in Philly of our own at about 84, and then in 90, I was tired of doing just so many deals, and I wanted to build something. And I started a company that developed retirement communities. Mm-hmm. We were the first public company in that space. Right. We got acquired, and then I got very interested in the concept of medication compliance as a business. Mm-hmm. And I started a company that developed the very first electronic prescribing tools for doctors to write their prescriptions electronically. And we captured a lot of data that was sort of medical record data in that. Right. We then merged with a company in Chicago called Allscripts, which was doing repackaging of medications for physicians to dispense. Right. We merged with them and got Allscripts public in '98, and then I went to run a healthcare venture fund merged 3 of those companies together in the year 2000. And,
So by this time, the kids are no longer skinny.
Right. Then I merged that company in 2000, and I thought I would run it for a year or 2 and then do something else, but I ran it until about 2008, and then we got acquired, and the day after the day after we closed on the sale of the company, I was directing a show again. So I
Back at it.
finally got back at doing what I've always wanted to do.
I know that's right. How did it feel coming back?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I felt a little rusty. It had been 25 years.
Yeah.
A doctor who I worked with, when he realized that I had a theater background, he said he was on the board of this little nonprofit professional theater up in Ambler called Act Two Playhouse, and they were struggling, and would I help them try to save it?
Wow.
And it turned out to work out the timing of selling the company. I was able to join that theater, and it's a way for me to get back at it and to get practicing again. I ran that for about 4 years. We did a co-production of a show that I had produced on Broadway called Time Stands Still with Laura Linney, and I did a co-production between Act Two and here, Delaware Theater Company, but we were going to do it here first and then go to Act Two, so I rehearsed it here. And it was while I was rehearsing that my predecessor and the board chair were telling me how that the theater was really in dire financial straits, and they were thinking about closing the theater and running the education programs and trying to raise money and then reopening it. And they asked me what I thought, and I said, well, if you close it, who's going to give you money to reopen?
Exactly, right.
And then he said, well, do you think you could save it? And I thought, well, if I can, I don't have to convince somebody else to hire me to direct.
Right.
It's only, I live right across the state line in Pennsylvania, so it was a short commute. And I fell in love with the theater. When I did this first show I did here, it was just like, this is a place I'd really love to come to work.
Right.
It wasn't easy for a number of years to try to keep making ends meet, but we developed a niche doing new work and developing new musicals that have potential Broadway opportunities. And after 10 years, we're finally in just a really great position. I have a dream team of a management team. And
nice.
It's also, sort of right around the time everything's good right now.
Right.
I have a great successor. He has a really good team. The theater's, not struggling to pay the bills. Yeah. And I just felt if you're going to step back, this is the time to step
do it
back when everything is looking okay.
Well, you're not going to go fishing, right? You're not going to retire and go fishing. What's your plans? What you going to do?
Well, my wife has always wanted to travel, and I was always said, I'm too busy.
Right.
And so I think we're going to try to travel.
Okay.
I have 6 grandkids, 2 of whom have graduated college and have jobs. And I said, when did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm hoping to, and the kids don't all live in the area, so I'm hoping to travel more, see them more.
And hit a theater nearby.
I don't, as I said, I'm not going to put my feet up and sit back and watch TV. I love directing, but I'm going to let Matt do all the hard work, and I'll come in and say, oh, that's a show I'd like to direct. Right.
What is it about, and I'm speaking from a creative, right? What is it about directing that just lights your fire, that makes you just like, that's it?
I think that there are 2 things. When I was in college, the acting teacher used to send me the young acting students to help them with their scene work. And I really loved exploring characters with them and like what was the driving motivation for why that character behaved the way they did. And I loved sort of peeling away the layers of, why do humans behave the way they do.
Right.
So I think that was one thing. The other is that I always wanted to find a way to impact an audience.
Okay.
Either entertain them or, expose a problem in our society that they needed to be aware of, and hopefully maybe educate them or change their perspective on it. And, I liked having the ability to do that.
Right.
Plus, I'd been a CEO for so long, it would be hard for me not to run it.
Right. And, it's hard for some people to go on the business side of things, become the businessman and become the creator as well. But you saw that niche, you saw that hole, you filled that hole, and now we have Delaware Theater Company.
Well, it's great. I mean, I feel like if I didn't have that business experience, I wouldn't have been able to have this artistic home for the last 10 years.
Right, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
It's been great for me too.
Yeah. What is your out of all the plays that you did, what is your favorite one?
Wow, that's people ask me that a lot, and it's like whatever I'm directing at the time is my favorite one.
Right.
I look back, there's probably 2 shows that I felt were the most challenging and rewarding. One was a play called Hetty Feather, which, and I say it was so challenging because it took place sort of in a circus environment, and all the actors had a trained aerial work.
Right.
And
Wow.
I went down to Sarasota to go to the Wrigley Museum to try to really learn the vocabulary and the movement of people within, the circus world. And that was a real challenge in terms of staging, and it turned out to be a really wonderful production for us. The other is a play that I feel like changed me, and that is a play called White Guy on the Bus, written by Bruce Graham.
Okay.
And it dealt with white privilege and racism pretty seriously. And I think I always took my white privilege for granted.
Wow.
I thought that I had what I had because I worked really hard. And I learned so much more about institutional racism. And I stopped taking my privilege for granted. And I think it really changed me. And I felt like I still look back at that play and say, I'm so glad that I did that, because I learned an awful lot about myself and the rest of the world and can look at it differently now.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, like what play changed you? Because, again, as a creative, something that we can work on that we never seen before, never was experienced to, and then it comes out of nowhere and we're like, oh my gosh. And then after that, you become better. The work that you work on is better. It's more heartfelt, and now you're including a whole nother thought pattern in people that you wouldn't even think of before.
Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So after that, okay, we're here at the Delaware Theater Company, and you are, I don't want to say on your way out, and I don't want to say curtains are going to close because they never close. You've been a mentor, and I want to talk about how important is it to be a mentor to someone, and especially you became a mentor to many, but most of all, Matt Silva.
I think one of my greatest joys over the years has been helping young people grow. And there's a great line in Hello, Dolly about money. And I don't, my metaphor is not necessarily about money, but money should be spread around, encouraging young things to grow. And I always felt like my experience was really helpful to young people. And it's not unlike, directing actors. It's like, how do you help bring out the best in them, create the right environment to bring out the best in them? And Matt was one of these guys that when I first met him, I thought there was something special about him. I was directing a show at Act Two, or actually my associate was directing a show at Act Two, and he was her assistant because she was his grad school teacher at the time. And so I met him, and he talked to me about a couple of his thoughts in the play, and I thought he was really right about what he was thinking about in the play. And he was sort of a little afraid to tell her because it was his teacher.
Right. Because a lot of people not even going to listen.
No, so he told me, and I said, I think you're right. And I went and talked to her about it. And so then when I was directing the next show, I asked him if he wanted to be my associate on it. And so we worked together on that. And then when I had left Act Two and was looking to do other things, I got asked I was coming here and I got asked to direct a show that was going to tour. And I said, well, I'm committed here now, but I'd like to recommend Matt Silva.
Nice.
And so he ended up doing the show, and then the producers of that kept him to do a bunch of things. And then I think once he got married, he wanted to settle down a bit and not travel so much. And,
welcome to Delaware.
Welcome to Delaware. I called him, we had lunch. I said to him first, I said, look, I know you want to direct, but if you're directing, you're not doing what I need you to do so that I can direct.
Right.
But he's really proven that, what I'm excited about in terms of the mentoring roles, he's not just a really good director. I mean, he really understands the business of the theater. And I think, directing shows that tour and having to go travel and see what it takes to get people in different markets to the theater, and getting shows up and down and moved around. He brought a great deal of business expertise.
Nice.
I'm not sure that he knew he had it, but So it's, I guess, geez, must be almost 5 years ago now, but I had hoped at the time that he would be able to be my successor. And
Right.
I was, as I've often said, he exceeded my expectations in his ability to do that.
Oh, wow.
So first and foremost, we've become great friends.
Good.
And then colleagues. So
Nice.
I'm really excited. I think he'll take the theater to the next level.
Nice.
Any of the people that I had worked with that helped bring some, big work here, that like Diner, when we did that with Barry Levinson and Sheryl Crow and so forth. All those people that were around those big musicals that we tried to do have gotten a great deal of confidence in him. And
Wow.
They know that I trust him, so I think that went a long way to building the confidence. So I think he's going to do a better job than I did, actually.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah.
Wow. I think he definitely, he can handle the baton. So
Yeah.
you said successor, you said some other things that bring me to the word legacy. Right? When in all of the plays that you've directed, what did you want people to take out that they can have when they leave the theater? What is your trademark? That was a Bud Martin right there. Because like you said, after that play that changed your life, what did you put inside your work that would change someone else's life?
One of my neighbors, and maybe because he's a neighbor, he just felt more in tune. But one of my neighbors once said to me, "I really like to see the shows that you directed because they just happen to be a little better." And I remember when we did Hetty Feather, the show had started in London, and a London producer friend of mine called me and said he really wanted to see whether there might be an American audience for that show. So when we did it, we did the first American production of that show. And a friend of mine's mother, who lived in London, came over to visit her daughter, and she came to see the show. And she said, "I liked this so much better than I did in London because your play has so much more heart." So I think my legacy is that I really want people to see all the heart that was in the show. And
Right.
that somehow or other they felt really moved or warmed or something because I did it.
Because I did it. I love it. I love it. And so again, we're at the Delaware Theater Company, and we have a final show. Your final show.
My final show. I saw the show in New York. I was a Tony voter for about 10 years, so I had the great privilege of seeing every Broadway show, which was great. The good thing was I got to see them all. The bad thing was I had to see them all. So it became a little hectic trying to see them all. But I remember seeing the show, 7 or 8 years ago maybe, and thinking that I had never laughed so hard in the theater, and that I said, there's so much physical comedy in it, in addition to the cleverness in the script. I said, one of these days I have to do this show.
Right.
And I figured, well, the only guarantee I have to be able to pick the show that I want to do is when I'm still running the place. So I decided that I finally was going to do the show. And so I'm really excited. It's the biggest non-musical we've ever done.
Okay.
When it opened on Broadway, it came over from London. When it opened on Broadway, it really introduced the American audience to James Corden, who really carried the show and was, really, really, really a riot. So it's got several scene changes. It's probably almost as big as every musical we've done, with a possible exception of Otherworld.
Right.
And I have, when we decided to do it, a lot of the cast members from a show that I directed a number of years ago called The Explorers Club, which was a great farce, called me and said, "Hey, is there any chance you can get the cast of The Explorers Club back?" So I couldn't get them all, but we do have a handful of them that are
here
in that, and that I've worked with. So it was almost like, okay, I got to pick my favorite folks to come back and do this show.
Right.
And so my favorite folks are in it.
Wow, because they're going to be around greatness. Hey,
well,
come on.
It's likewise. I mean, I think it's a collaboration. We have a policy that whoever has the best idea in the room wins. It's not just about what I say,
Yeah, we have one at DETV that says no one is bigger than the production.
Right. Good say.
What can theater do for a community?
Well,
Especially like Delaware.
It's in many ways, I feel like it has to be a bit of a look at yourself kind of opportunity. I mean, I think that some of the shows that we've done, I felt I was driven to do them because I felt like they were so important to look at the community. We did a show called Sanctions, which was about a college that had been sanctioned by the NCAA for helping black athletes cheat in order to play on the football team.
Wow.
And a part of the play was that so many of those kids should never have gotten to high school. They shouldn't have been passed in grade school.
Right.
And to me, what I looked at was I had the opportunity to meet with a number of folks that worked in Teach for America, and I wanted to really understand why they were passing these kids. Mm-hmm. So many of them were at risk. If they dropped out of school, they probably would have ended up in juvie,
right,
or gotten in trouble. And if football or any other sport, well, because it was about a football team, but if these kids could get to college because of playing football, mm-hmm. then we needed to pass them because at least then they might have a shot.
Right.
And I felt like, when I started getting statistics about the number of kids that drop out of school, how many times those kids end up in jail, what the recidivism rates were like, mm-hmm. I felt that was something that the community really needed to see and learn from, and at least understand. If it didn't change their attitude, right. so be it, but at least to expose the issues and make people become aware. And
right.
I think that art is supposed to represent life,
right.
and I feel like it's important for us to do things like that. Yeah. We can't do all serious work, obviously, and we do want to entertain, but the big difference for me is when I see, and it happened the first time my parents took me to the theater, is you see a serious play, or you even see a comedy for that matter, you develop an empathy with the person on stage because right. it's a person. It's not on film. It's
right.
not on TV.
Right.
And if the interaction between the audience members and the cast is not something you experience anywhere else, and I think it really helps build empathy for people that go to the theater. We did a play called Honk a few years ago, which was based on the Ugly Duckling story.
Beautiful play. I brought my daughter. I cried.
Well, I'm so glad.
I cried.
I cried in rehearsal.
I was surprised. I cried.
But there was a song in there that Ugly, the duckling, sang that said, talks about being different. Mm-hmm. And a mother called me one day and said she brought her 8-year-old son to see the show, and he started to cry during that song. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Honey, what's the matter?" And he said, "Sometimes I feel like ugly." Mm-hmm. And I just thought, oh God, it's, I don't know that they would have had that experience watching it on TV.
No, not at all.
And I think that's really what's important to people going to live theater. Well, during COVID, people said, "Why don't you do a lot of videotape and put it up?" And I said,
the same.
It's not the same, and Netflix does it better.
Yeah. So, right. My wife and I are exposing our daughter to theater. Oh. Theater wasn't a thing for me growing up, or even for my wife. So now it's dance, it's theater. So about 2 years ago, I went to go see Hamilton, and my wife bought the CD, and my daughter sang every song in Hamilton. So December, she went to go see her first Hamilton play. And I literally cried. Again, I'm a crier, okay? I'm a crier.
Me too.
I'm up in the booth, right? And we're watching it, and she's singing every song. She knows every song. And I'm just sitting there like, this will change her life forever. Yeah. And then we get behind stage, they come out and they meet her. And the guy who played Hamilton sang a song with her. It was, and that the exposure that kids in the inner city definitely need to be a part of theater or witness theater at some level, because it will definitely change the lives.
We do some programs in school programs, and we've done it at Ferris School for Boys and at Grace Cottage, where we'll go in and work with the kids in there about helping them write a story about maybe what got them in there, why mm-hmm. they were in there, and then sort of act those out in a way which to try to help them when they get on the other side of it. Yeah. I remember we did a play here called Love, Loss, and What I Wore, and the 5 members of the cast were all very prominent women television people. Sonia Manzano, who wrote and won 15 Emmys and played Maria on Sesame Street.
Yep.
Grew up in the Bronx, and she was telling these girls from Grace Cottage that if she had to figure out that she had to leave home or she was going to end up like her brothers, who had lots of challenges and problems. And theater was what got her to be able to step out and learn that there could be another way. So it's builds self-confidence with kids, their ability to work with other people. I think it's really important that it starts early. And unfortunately, in a lot of schools, with budget cuts, they cut the arts.
Yeah.
You don't build empathy towards other people doing math.
Right, exactly. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure just sitting here and just talking to you about
likewise.
About everything. Not everything, but we could go get a cup of coffee and talk about everything. Great. But again, thank you so much for what you do for the theater, what you've done for Delaware, and congratulations on your, I need another word for retirement.
Hiatus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you too.
All right, so we'll be right back. Matt Silva's up next, and we're going to talk about the future of the Delaware Theater Company. All right, stand tight. Good morning, Wilmington.
Still searching for cheap gas prices? Dump the pump and ride DART. You can DART to your destination for only $4 all day. Let DART do the driving while you enjoy our free Wi-Fi available on all buses statewide. While scrolling through your favorite apps, don't forget to download DART's free transit app for real-time bus information and enjoy the convenience of contactless fare payment through DART Pass. So what are you waiting for? Dump the pump and try transit. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
DETV has been Delaware's premium provider of creative digital and broadcasting solutions that bridges communities and connects people. We create great stories for all audiences. We deliver independent news throughout Delaware. We are digital platform innovators. And we develop marketing and sales solutions so you can stay connected to your audience. Now, why do we do what we do here on DETV? We do it because we care. So, keep watching and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Remember, DETV, online, on air, on time.
Every issue that you care about.
Every issue that I care about.
And every issue that affects our daily lives is impacted by one simple action.
A vote. As the Delaware Voting Rights Coalition,
We stand ready to protect and expand access to voting.
Because our communities deserve a democracy that works for all of us.
learn more and join us at aclu-de.org/DVRC.
Government doesn't make a move without an agenda, some type of plan. The problem is we haven't been on the agenda. Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes our interests aren't the interest of those in power. I'm your host, Kerwin Gaines, on DETV's new show, The Agenda. We're going to do our best to ensure that you, Delawareans, are knowledgeable about what's going on in the Assembly. Federal government, local government, it doesn't matter. We're going to do our best to ensure that folks that make the agenda on a daily basis have to answer for it. Let them explain what they're doing. If it affects you, it's on the agenda.
Welcome back to the special edition of GMW. I'm here with Matt Silva, the executive director of the Delaware Theater Company. Welcome. Well, shoot, I'm in your house.
Please, we're happy to have you. Thanks for being here.
How's everything going?
Fantastic. Thank you. Doing really well. Gearing up to get another show up.
All right, so I just had an interview with another capeless superhero, an amazing human being, Bud Martin. He says you're the man next in line with the baton. How's it feel?
It feels good. It feels really good. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of fun to have that responsibility.
Yeah.
And you know, with Bud, it's been a partnership for the past 4 years, and so I feel really well prepared between our board, our staff, and Bud to be able to sort of take the baton and keep on running, make sure we're winning the race.
And that's what I was going to ask you. What was the experience like? Like you get to train, you get to work with, you get to learn the ins and outs from a great. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if we were in Greek, a god. Okay. So what is that like? That you really could sit there just learning underneath him?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the great opportunity to know Bud for a long time. And it started out sort of as an artistic mentor, and then sort of a friend, of course. And then came into, we did some, this was of course in the nonprofit sector when I was assistant directing, and then was sort of in the for-profit sector, so business was, you know, more prudent and more in play. And so I started to learn from him from that aspect as well. And then once I got to Delaware Theater Company just over 4 years ago, just being able to see Bud and how he treats human beings. There is business, there are dollars and cents, we know this. There's patrons, there's audience, there's people working here. And Bud's ability to embrace humanity has been the most important thing to see. And also his patience, his ability to sort of give me wings and let me fly, and then you know, if I run into a mirror or something like that, he sees me fall down, he picks me up and says, you know, hey, let's think about this a different way. So it's been a real incredible journey to have him as a partner, mentor, and friend.
So what can we expect from the Delaware Theater Company moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot more of the same in terms of the highest quality entertainment in the state. You know, we're the only LORT, League of Resident Theaters, professional equity theater here in the state of Delaware. And so we pull talent from all over the place, from New York, from the West Coast, from regionally here, locally in Wilmington, as well as Philadelphia. So, I mean, you can certainly expect to see the best quality theater around, continue to do so. And then also, I think one of the things we're thinking a lot about is how we, a lot of times almost every time, we bring people into this building to see theater. We've got 389 seats in a beautiful theater. And we're starting to think about what it means to bring what we do out into the community, into other spaces. So it's just as important, obviously, to keep doing the thing we do really well. And now it's starting to think about some strategies in which we may be able to bring that out into the community a bit more. And be able to do it just as well out there as we do it here on our stage.
Oh, sweet. Love it. Love it. All right. Last question. If you had an opportunity to write a letter to Bud, what would you say?
Oh, man. I haven't really thought about this yet.
I know.
That's a good question. I think it would be filled with gratitude. You know, Bud I've known Bud, I guess, now since 2009, so a significant amount of years. And it would be, I lost my own father about 2.5 years ago. And Bud has sort of become a second father in that time, and sort of always has been. And so I think it would be a lot of gratitude for him sharing his world, his life experience with me, and for his trust. I think as a director, one of the things you really hope that you establish with someone is trust, so that they know that they're in good hands. And Bud I've always been in good hands with Bud. And so I think that's what the letter would start with.
My man, appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Matt Silva, there we go. Delaware Theater Company. Make sure you come out February 1st to the 19th for, what is it called?
One Man, Two Governors.
I was going to say One Man, One Governor. I was thinking about John Carter.
As long as you buy a ticket, I don't care. You call whatever you want.
Meet me here, the Delaware Theater Company, February 1st. All right, that's it. We good? All right, good morning, Wilmington. We'll see you when we get back.